Hi, I'm Karen. If you've seen any of my other videos, this one's going to be a little different. My channel is mostly about helping people over 40 focus on the silver linings in living life to the fullest. I'm supporting myself as a reseller, and about 6 months ago, I bought this camper van. I've taken it out only once because life kind of got in the way, but as you can see, I'm bundled up. It's cold outside. Wasn't this cold yesterday, but it sure got cold in the middle of the night when I discovered that my heat wasn't working. So we're gonna have a little adventure with this van and sourcing trips so that I can find enough things to sell in my reselling business. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the pitfalls that I've had. Let's talk about so far. I left yesterday from North Carolina. I headed over to the Atlanta area, but I decided I really wanted to have electric hookups because I was having problems with my generator. So I found the closest Love's RV stop that was available, which is actually about an hour and a half out of Atlanta. So I'm going to head back to Atlanta, and I was able to fill up my propane. I'm going to fill up my tires because I had a tire light that came on. So I ended up stopping at an auto parts store, bought a little digital tire gauge, had somebody check my tires and give me some advice. So I'm going to use the free air at the diesel pumps. They said if I use the air that's like right by their front door, they charge me. But if I go around to the back where the big trucks fill up, that air is free. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to get on the road, hit some sourcing spots, and we'll see. I haven't decided where I'm going to stay tonight. My goal is to get out of this gas station where I'm just not sure, as a new RV owner, if it's safe to light up the generator like real close to the gas pump. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to get out of here, and then I'm going to try my generator and make sure it's working okay. And if it is, then my plan is to stay at a Cracker Barrel, which is free. And hopefully by then I'll also figure out how to get the heat working. But if not, it'll be like last night. The heat from driving all day warmed it up enough that it didn't really get cold till like the middle of the night, and we were under blankets, and I was sleeping in sweats. So I'm going to do that again tonight, and hopefully if I can't get the heater to work, we'll just manage. So this is me and my little dogs. My 2 girls are with me. This is Josie, and that's Jasmine. And this is my camper van. I've got a twin bed Winnebago Travato. So there's the driver section. There's a curtain that closes it off. There's a little kitchen. There's the second bed. I don't know if you can see it. It's hard for me to do this. And then I'm sitting on one of the beds, and then that's the bathroom right back there. And that's about it. So limited storage space if you want to be able to move around in here. But on my last day, I'll actually even be willing to, like, this aisle that's between the twin beds, I'll be willing to like load that up. But as long as I'm moving around and having to stay in here, I need to be able to walk through the aisle. So that's the plan. So I'm going to head out, do a few things, and we will continue this probably tonight. I'm cutting in for just a second because I realized that when I turned my camera on the girls, they weren't very visible in the picture. So this is Josie. Hi, Josie. And this is Jasmine, my 2 girls, and they're going to be joining me on our adventures. Okay, back to what I was talking about. So here's my camper van. One of the big reasons I decided to go with a van instead of a Class C, which gives you a little bit more space inside and is actually more affordable, is that I wanted to be able to park in a regular parking spot so I could do stuff like this and go shopping. Then when I step inside, I get to see my girls. Oh, look what she did while we were in the store. Okay, I'm going to have to fix that. She knows how to undress herself. This is Josie. Jasmine. 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 Come say hello. That's Jasmine. It's Monday morning. Yesterday was a long day, so I did not get around to filming when I got back. It was dark. I had to get myself some dinner. I had to get everybody set up, and so it just didn't happen. So let me fill you in on the rest of yesterday. I did go use that free air at the diesel pumps and inflated my tires for the first time in probably 25 years. I just have never had tires that needed it. So feel very, very accomplished that I was able to do that. And my generator was working. So I think what it was, candidly, was the tank register, the tank levels that I've heard they're not very accurate, and it said I had a quarter of a tank of propane. I think that was wrong, and I was lower than that, almost out, and there was enough propane to like come out the gas stove so I could see the flame, and I thought, well, I got propane. But apparently the Truma heater is much more finicky about needing really good pressure coming from the LP tanks. So it didn't want to work. So as soon as I got the tank filled up, which I was able to do, the LP, the propane, I filled that up. It only cost about $10. I was surprised. I got that filled up to full at the Love stations, which was great, and makes me like the Love stations, the RV stops, even better. So I was able to do that, and then the generator was working fine. So I'm thinking that the tank was actually low, and maybe the level that it was parked at, it just didn't think there was very much in there. So that's that. So the generator's working now, which is fabulous. That means that I can use the microwave and I can use the outlets. I haven't actually really used them much, but I could. In the summertime, it's a big deal because that means that I can also use air conditioning. And traveling with dogs, when I go in and out of stores, I need to have the generator running so that they don't get overheated. When you're driving, you can't be using your generator. It's dangerous to use the LP when you're driving. So you can't use the generator, but when I'm driving, I've got the air conditioning going from the dash, from the driver's area, and that is enough to cool it down. I'm sorry. Josie, stop it. Stop it. She's barking under her breath. I'm sorry. We are actually at the Cracker Barrel that I said I was going to stay at. We sourced all day yesterday, went to 5 stores, which doesn't sound like a lot for all day, but honestly, they were big stores and they were new to me stores, and I took probably close to an hour in each store. I'm just not a super fast shopper, and I would rather take a little more time at a store I've already driven to make sure I don't miss something. So I got 26 items to resell out of that 5-store trip, which is good for me. I mean, it's not as good as I wanted, but they were really good items. I found some really high-end pieces that I just never find where I live. And I saw a lot of stuff that was similar to what I can find at home, and I decided I'm just not going to pick that stuff up because I can just get that at home. I mean, those are things I find all the time, so I didn't pick those up. So pretty much everything I pick up was better than what I normally can find, or different but equivalent. So that was great. I got to Cracker Barrel. I actually called the first one and just to confirm that it was okay to stay in their lot overnight. and they said, no, actually the little municipality that they're in doesn't allow it. So I tried another one. They didn't answer the phone. So I tried a third one, and they were happy to have me come stay in the back behind the building. There's actually another camper van parked 2 spaces over from me. So it was great. I got over here. I got myself parked. I went in. I picked up carryout. Very great, warm, filling meal of pot roast and mashed potatoes and rolls and like fried apples, but it basically like the apples inside like an apple pie. Yeah, that was like my dessert. So that was fabulous, because it's considered courtesy when you are staying free somewhere that you should spend a little money for them allowing you to do that. So I did that, but here's the big news. The heat stopped working in the middle of the night. Oh, I did figure out how to get the heat working again. Facebook to the rescue. I'm part of a Facebook Winnebago Travato problems group. I went in and posted it, and almost immediately I had a few people comment, and people talking about having the same problem. Somebody else that gave me very, very specific instructions on how to fix it. It worked. I had heat. It was great. And sometime in the middle of the night, it stopped working. I was laying in bed thinking I must have used up all the gas because I set the temperature too high. But I set it for what I thought I would be warm based on what I'm used to. And I didn't get out of bed even though it was freezing because I was cold. And I figured it's out of gas. And it was too cold, so I just went back to sleep. I kept going back to sleep, and I was really, really cold. I pulled the girls underneath, pushed them up against my body, and they were my little bottle warmers, and I would hope I was their bottle warmer. But I was laying in bed going, this is just too cold. I am not doing another night like this, and I am going to just head home in the morning because the temperature's supposed to be really cold all day, and I just was laying there thinking, I can't even imagine getting warm again, and I just want to go home. Lesson learned, I should have gotten up at that point and checked to see if I could get the heat working. I also could have gone in and gotten the keys and gone up to the cab and turned on the engine and let the engine recharge the batteries while it idled and start pumping out some heat from the front. So when I finally did get up, that is exactly what I did. And guess what? It's warm and toasty in here now. Well, almost warm and toasty. The front is pumping out heat. I reset the heater again, and it started working again. So I do need to figure out why it is getting an error, after working for so many hours. Because I can live with that, but it would be better to not have to wake up really, really cold and then reset it in the middle of the night. So I'm going to work on that. But everything else is working great. And now that I am not freezing and I've got the dogs in coats and they're not freezing, I think I'm going to stick around and source today. I am not going to spend another night. It's supposed to be, the temperatures are really, really dropping, and it's supposed to be really cold here and even colder where I live. So like wind chill temperatures below 0. So rather than spending another night here, driving home in the morning, getting out of the van in really frigid temperatures and unloading, and then having to pack up shipping and get that to the post office before they close. Today is a holiday, so there is no shipping, which is why I'm able to stay an extra day. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to source for this morning, 3, 4, 5 hours, and then I'm going to drive home. I'm about 3 hours from home. Might take a little bit longer to at least get out of the Atlanta area. If I'm kind of leaving towards the early part of rush hour. And to avoid that, what I'm going to try to do is source in that direction of the direction I would be going, to go home so that I'm taking half an hour off of the drive. And that's the plan. I will give you an update. I'm not sure when, but I will give you another update. It's coming up right now. Hi, I'm back. So here's the plan. It's about 3:30 and I have a big stack of bags that I have picked up. I do not think I'm going to hit my goal of getting about 100 items for reselling on this trip, but I'm going to get as much as I can. I have time for maybe 2 or 3 more stores, and then I'm going to head back to my home base. It's about a 3-hour drive, and I am fine driving after dark. So, especially since I'll be going home and I don't have to like figure out how to set anything up when I get there. So I will be back one more time to give you a final update. I'll give you an idea of how much I spent on other stuff besides inventory just to do this trip, because that needs to really be factored in as if it makes sense. One of the reasons I'm doing it with the van is to try to keep expenses down other than gas and food and apparently propane. There really isn't any additional expense, and I would be eating if I was at home too, though I might be eating more at home and not buying out as much. Next time I plan on doing a better job planning ahead and bringing food with me. But I was having issues with the refrigerator, which I may still be having. So I didn't want to bring food that needed to go in the refrigerator and the microwave because I didn't know if I was going to be able to use the generator and the fridge wasn't cooling. But I'm going to work on both of those things, make sure both are fine for the next trip, and then that way I can keep my food costs down also. So that's it for now. I will see you after I get back home. Let me fill you in on my last day. I got up after I got warm and took care of the dogs and did all the little normal daily things you need to do in the morning. I took off and hit the road looking for more items for eBay. And I went into a bunch of stores and I was working my way towards the direction of home just to shave a few minutes off of the drive. And then I stopped, I'm not sure when it was, but maybe mid-afternoon. I didn't thrift as long as I would have if I was staying another night, but I was not going to do another night in the cold. And I headed home, and I had about a 3-hour drive. So I got home late, all is good, walked into a nice warm home. And the last couple of days I've been getting caught up on work and finally had a chance to sit down and go through all the receipts and see what my numbers were so I could share that with you. So I ended up buying 54 items. Of those, 39 of them are earmarked for eBay, and the others are going to either go to my booth or to a consignment store that I make some extra money off of. I actually made a video about that. I am going to put that here. So the next thing I did was I wanted to look at and see what kind of stores I was shopping in to find the things that I bought. So 8 of the stores were Goodwills. And part of that was because they are open longer hours. They candidly, I do really well at Goodwills in home, so I tended to lean towards that. And they're all over the place. And also they have long hours on Sundays. So 8 of the stores were Goodwills, 3 were Salvation Armies. I like Salvation Armies. I don't really have very many in my area, and I have to drive pretty far to get to them. So that was a nice change. And then I think there were 2 or 3 that were other small independent charity shops. So that was the breakdown of the stores. And I am going to probably go back to any of those stores again. I'm not prepared to rule out any store, even if I only bought 1 or 2 items there. after just one visit. But the next time I go to Atlanta, if I hit some of those same stores again, which I'm not sure I will, I need to decide because Atlanta is so big and there are so many parts of Atlanta I did not hit that I may do a different area, or I may hit kind of the same general area again and see, you know, really decide kind of what are the best stores. And then the next trip, I could just go to the highlights of that area and then try a new area. That might be the most effective way to work my way through the massive city. So let's talk about what I spent money on the trip, because that money needs to be broken down and divided out by the number of items that I purchased so that can be added to the cost of goods. Because if I bought those locally or I bought them online and had them shipped to me, I would not have had that cost. So I need to make sure the business is absorbing that cost and it makes sense to go out of town to source for items. So I spent $238.11 on this trip. There were 3 categories I spent money on separate from buying the items to sell. The biggest category was gas. That was the biggest category. I think I stopped and got gas 3 times. My vehicle doesn't get great gas mileage. I haven't ever tested it and checked it. I need to do that. But what I hear is it's kind of in that 15 to 18 mileage range. And I'm used to driving a car that gets amazing gas mileage because it's a hybrid. So that was different than my normal. But in order to take the trip and stay on the road and not have to pay for hotels and have enough space to bring things back, I needed to take the van. And that's really why I bought it. The second most expensive category for the trip was things directly related to the RV, separate from gas. That was 3 expenses. The first one was a digital tire gauge, because I had a light that came on that said my tires were low and I needed to fix that. The second was propane, because my propane ran out on this trip, and that's why I didn't have heat the first night. So I needed propane, and it turned out, I think I said earlier in this video that it was like $10. It was actually like $12. And the third thing I spent money on was actually the camping fee. That was $45 at Love's. So those were the 3 RV related costs that I would not have had if I had driven a car or I had flown or I just didn't even go out of town at all. The third category and last category was food. And I didn't really spend that much because I was snacking most of the trip, and I had brought a couple of things that I could eat in the morning, and I was noshing through the day. So I really just had kind of one main meal in the late afternoon or dinner time. But what I learned is it's fine to bring snacks, but I need to do a better job at eating healthier. And I need to do a better job at bringing food that keeps me from stepping inside the Love's gas station and buying 3 mandarin oranges for $4, which I did because I was really, really hungry and I wanted fruit, and that's what they had. And that's where I was. So if I go to the grocery store and I stock up in advance, which is what I'm going to do on the next trip, once I make sure that the refrigerator is working, because that was the reason I didn't really do that, was because the refrigerator was just acting weird and I wasn't sure if it was going to be working, so I didn't have food with me. So I need to reposition the RV at home so that it's completely level, because that's the only way the refrigerator works. And then once I can get the refrigerator working, then I'll be comfortable loading it up because it'll work while I'm driving too. But until you're level, it doesn't work. Life with an RV. So anyway, that is what I spent. All of that divided out by the number of items I purchased was about $4 per item. So that means that my cost of goods was probably closer to the $8 range instead of the $4 range, which is fine. But I need to factor that in because those costs need to be absorbed by the business and by the profit per item in order to justify doing these trips. So the lesson I learned was I need to definitely bring more food. So I cut down the cost of food. Hopefully I won't be needing to buy propane every trip. And once I am outside of really cold weather and I know everything is working, the generator's working, then I could stay more often at the free places. So that'll cut down those costs. But besides cutting down the costs, I need to buy more items because if I spent $238 this time. If I had bought 100 items instead of 50 items, that cost of the trip would have been divided by a lot more items, so it really wouldn't have impacted the cost of goods so much. So that's the plan. I need to get more items when I go. So I need to work on that. I definitely plan on doing more of these trips and sharing with you how it goes. So that is the summary of the first winter camping and the first sourcing weekend trip.